Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 250 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Fransgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc.
Today's topic is the ripple effect of alignment, leading your team with confidence. The question from the audience: how can I create clarity and alignment in my business so I can reduce overwhelm, improve team dynamics, and actually enjoy the growth process? And that's what our guest today is going to be talking about, Camilla Bignell, Better Relationships, Better Business. Camilla is a seasoned expert in business alignment and team dynamics with over 30 years of experience helping service-based business owners and teams create clarity, ease, and meaningful progress. Having 17 years running her family business alongside her siblings, she understands firsthand the challenges of growth without alignment and the missed opportunities it can bring. Today, Camilla is dedicated to helping businesses align their goals, resources, and values to foster harmony, reduce tension, and unlock their full potential. Camilla, welcome. What's your favorite quote or saying?
That's a tough one, Bernie, because I love quotes. I have so many that I love, but I think Maya Angelou sums it up with, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better.
And what's the business tagline you have for your business?
Yeah, better relationships, better business.
That makes perfectly good sense. If you don't have a good relationship, business is not going to go that well. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to add, when I say better relationships, I don't mean just with people. I mean with your systems and tool, along with yourself.
Well, that is a really good point. If the shoe is too tight, it's not going to help you run better.
Exactly.
So you ran your family business and there's challenges that came up. What were the alignment issues that you were discovering? What were you finding as the friction points?
I would say that my parents were both successful in the corporate industry. My dad retired early, and the company that my mom worked with had been bought out by a U.S. manufacturer. I didn't realize at the time that they had this employee mindset. So I don't think they really had this long-term vision for the company, other than let's pass it down to the kids and everything will be rosy. Unfortunately, as parents with the best of intentions in mind, I don't think we started on the same page. We had different abilities and we weren't focusing on our strengths. We were acting more like siblings, and he did this and she did that, and it just was not a productive environment at all. And so when you have your energy focused in the wrong place, it ripples out and affects everything else. And that's not to say it was all bad. We had good and bad times. We actually grew the sales, grew the business, but we were so focused on some of the negative and taking the positive for granted that became our demise after 2008.
It's interesting you'd mentioned that you're taking it for granted, the positives, and just focusing on what's not shiny.
I really like in your bio, you talk about your circle of strength. Unpack that for me.
Yeah, it's actually just in the last year that I've unpacked that. And really what it's all about is we each have a circle of strength as a business owner, and even in our life, some type of framework that you're going to use for whatever it is you do, whether it's in business or life, the relationships that you have, and that can be with other people and yourself, and then the tools that you use. For instance, I have a newsletter that I create and I tie in cooking with it because I love cooking. So if I wanted to make an omelet, I have to have a frying pan. And it has to be the right kind of frying pan so the egg doesn't stick to the bottom. Business owners who say, oh, that didn't work for me. It's because you've tried a system that might have worked for someone else and maybe works for several people, but maybe it just needs a tweak or refinement to work better for you. We all have different personality traits, characteristics, work styles, and that all ripples out and affects how you're going to perform in your business. And then the other part of I think I mentioned the circle of strength, also the people part. So, yeah.
So, how do you help owners to identify these key areas where their circle of strength needs help? If you already know, I'm really good at talking to people, all right, how do you identify the pitfall areas that they might try to shove under the rug?
Yeah, I love when I talk to a potential client and actually people. I love trying to understand people. When I talk to them about their business, I try to understand what's going well and then what's not going well. And it's not just talking to the business owner. That's why I like to work with small business owners and their small teams, less than 10 typically. I've worked with teams of 20 and 50 as well. But it's understanding everyone's perspective and reading between the lines. You start to see the strengths that people have. I have an assessment tool called StrengthFinders 2.0, and they suggest that you focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. When you start figuring out the strengths, you can actually align the strengths so that everyone complements each other. I wish we had known that in the family business rather than the backstabbing and worrying that someone's going to outshine you. You each have your lane and you know what your strengths and your purpose and focus is.
How do you ensure that you have enough circles of strength? It sounds like you're coming together, almost making a pillar or a series of pillars to put the roof up to make it run. And if
Exactly.
you have your circle and your colleague has the same circle of strength, right? Where do you figure out what's missing? How do you fill the gaps, the voids that aren't in the team right now?
Yeah, my answer to that would be that all too often we think things in business and in life are linear, and they're not. They're cyclical. So I'm not going to get it perfect this time around. I am striving for excellence, as we all should. But excellence and perfection are not the same thing. As Maya says, when you know better, you do better. So I'm going to do my best attempt now. And when I come back around to that, for instance, let's use our ideal client, that exercise in business, as an example. Okay. I don't have it perfect yet. And things are going to happen in the next week, month, year that are going to affect my ideal client with the people that I do work with. Each time that I have an experience, was it a good one? Was it a bad one? How did it contribute to the progress? How did it take away from my ability to create progress? It's just little shifts each step of the way. And that's why clarity is so important, because then you get the alignment.
I really like what you talked about alignment. I find talked about more than understood. Why don't you tell me what alignment means for you and your client?
Yeah, I'm going to start with values. Okay. Growing up in the 70s, I unconsciously was taught about values, but to be consciously aware of the values that matter most to you and what you're willing to compromise on and what you need to take a stand for are totally dependent on the values that you have. So when you're hiring a new team member, when you're working with clients, those values need to align to have a successful relationship. If I have a value of authenticity, then to work with a fake client or an employee who is fake and lies and cheats, that is never going to be a fit. It's going to cause a problem. And that situation takes away from the brilliance of all of the people contributing in the business and to the business itself.
The way you just described that, it's a level of intelligence behind the scenes, right? Emotional intelligence. Do you find that the clients, when you're reaching out or they're talking to you and they're going, we're lost, we're having a bit of chaos, is it that their emotional intelligence hasn't picked up on it and you're actually tweaking it for them? Or what are the steps you're involved with when you're in that space?
What I would say is that it's little awarenesses, it's planting seeds. It's not that they don't have the emotional intelligence. Sometimes they're completely unaware because they're so close to the situation that saying you can't read the label from inside the jar, or you can't see the forest for the trees because you're right in it. And so it's just little awarenesses. I have one client who refers to me as the no judge, gentle nudge coach.
Well, I
That's
like
thank you. What good will it do for me to say you're wrong? It's better to plant little seeds and let them have this awareness that, oh, this doesn't fit for me. That is how my emotional intelligence has unfolded. And I can tell you in situations as a child, teenager, young adult, whatever you want to say, I had situations where when I felt backed up against the wall, I either burst into tears or I got really mad. And that's because I didn't understand my feelings properly and didn't know how to navigate them.
I do like the way you framed it, though. You don't look at the negative, you kept the query in positive light. So that way it stays positive, it's neutral or upbeat.
StrengthsFinders 2.0, and this is another great aspect of it, it says that when we focus on our weaknesses, it detracts from our strength. If we can surround ourselves with people that have a strength that maybe we don't have, then it's almost like Star Trek and we automatically assimilate.
A Borg moment. There we go.
resistant
In a good
futile.
way.
Resistant is
Exactly.
futile.
Exactly. Yes.
Something that I excited to hear you break down is we talk about chaos. We talk about being out of alignment. Sometimes we use the term noise versus signal. When a person is in that level of chaos, how do you get them to recognize it so that they can actually hire you? And what do you do next? What are the easy, quick action steps to get them working towards something?
Yeah, I would say it's really important to meet the person where they're at. If I keep saying, you're not here, me telling them that isn't going to get them from point A to point B. I do diagnostic strategy videos for potential clients, for prospects. And I've actually just piloted it. So I had a client I've been working with, and it was about opening her eyes to what is really going on. I had to say, you are so creative and talented, and you are a business owner. And right now, it's time to put on your business hat. It woke her up. She realized, you are absolutely right. I have to start focusing on my business, not what I do and love. And that's not to compromise the talent. What I try to do is help bring out the best in the left brain and right brain of the person, the business, the team. That is true alignment and harmony.
You've mentioned StrengthFinder 2.0. What other tools do you capitalize on to help people? Obviously, dialogue is important. What are the tools you bring into play to help them do the assessment, get them to see the light, and make sure they're on the track they're supposed to be on?
One of the best tools I am finding, and now I'm starting to intermingle a couple others with it, but ChatGPT is one of my favorites. When I first started using it, you'd get these prompts that you were given by the people teaching you how to use chat. And I found that the answers were quite robotic. And what I found was if I infuse my genius of what I know about people and processes, my experiences, along with my emotional intelligence, my human insight, then we have a powerhouse team. I actually refer to Chat as my brainstorming buddy and strategic partner. I didn't know if it was run by a right wing, left wing. So what I decided to do was tell Chat, I want your opinion, but I want other perspectives around this idea. And that way I could make my own informed decision about what was right for me or my client and not right for me. I started sharing that process with some of my clients, and it has really helped them grow in ways that you wouldn't imagine. For instance, self-awareness, self-compassion, understanding other people. So that is one of the most powerful tools, I would say. And I've started now tying in perplexity and using Perplexity a little and then bringing it back into ChatGPT.
It's interesting you're using both AIs to drill out
Mhm.
information, and then one crafts something, and then you go, okay, based on the following. That's pretty smart. Do you
Thank you.
use any modules inside ChatGPT? There's a couple of them that are in there that if you look, you can ask the straightforward question, or there's a kind of a silo where, let's say, you're doing marketing or you're doing content writing or a script for a video. You'll find them and you go, okay, there's a couple of them with good ranking, and then you fire some stuff in there, and it's aimed better at the result. You still have to create a context. Do you use anything like that?
When you say, are you referring to custom GPTs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have plans to create some of my own for specific things that are repeatable in business that my partner and I can use. Some of them I have found that they're not giving me what I want. So you have to be careful. You have to be willing to play and then learn from that and how can it be better and do better. And you mentioned context. That is like all capitals, context, really important with generative AI.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pamela, you're younger than me, but the guy who I think started this process would have been Ziegler, who talked about the checkup from the neck up. You mentioned family business, and I find family businesses grow using the same tools till they don't. And then they start to unravel, sometimes spectacularly and sometimes slowly. How do you get them aware? You're talking about self-awareness. How do you get them aware that they can refocus, realign, repackage, and not wait till they're chapter 11, to use an American term?
I would say that it's really important to make sure that there is a clear vision that everyone, they might not have in mind, but a clear vision that they know they're working towards. And it's helping them understand how they all fit as you add another element as you need it. You refine processes, streamline workflows, and optimize the strengths within the business. And it all becomes this beautiful symphony or orchestra, right? And it doesn't mean there aren't little tweaks and refinements that are made along the way, because life and business is forever evolving and changing. So that needs to happen in the business and with the team as well. Done is never done. It's a matter of continuous improvement.
As you described, everything changes. We as people change. We age, right? Our tastes when we were teenagers are not the tastes that we have when we're 50. Might like some of the tunes from that time still, but we're not. If you're doing clubbing in your early 20s, you're probably not doing clubbing as much in your 50s. How do you maintain the game that you're in, and the business game I'm talking about, and at the same time keep it in alignment with you, the person? Unlike chat, if you ask the question now, it'll roughly stay the same. But as we age, body tells you different things, etc., will change. How do you keep that aligned? How often do you revisit what you're doing to make sure that you're inside your circle?
Yeah, definitely. I do an annual review. I look at the 10 areas of life and pick 2 or 3 to focus on for the year. And then I have what I call a 90-day focus planner. It's about being focused for that 90 days. I think that works out to 16 weeks roughly. And what are the main goals that I have? And it's not trying to do everything and being everything. I used to be labeled the Energizer Bunny, constantly doing. And you realize that you end up somewhere that might be what you were aiming for, but there's no fulfillment, there's no satisfaction. So it's keeping that in check, keeping it in mind. And I used to think that in order to have a balanced life or business, it had to be equally split between personal and business, 50% and 50%. No, I only work 9 to 5. No, I'm only with family after 5 and on weekends. And what I've learned as an entrepreneur is that you are at your best when you're present with whatever you're doing. So it's up to you to decide when you're going to work and when you're going to have that downtime. Whatever you're doing, be present with it. So again, that's weekly reviews, monthly planning, looking at my schedule for the day and how the day is going to pan out. And it's really setting an intention for how I want to feel throughout my day.
You have business transitions written right into your corporate tagline. Does succession planning, partner exits, revisiting goal, do you find that somebody leaving or wanting to leave helps get you hired and making the process more painless?
I would say for those that are aware and proactive, yes. I have certainly had that. I actually have a client right now who is looking to transition his business over to his family in the next year. So that's proactive. He knows what he wants, he knows the outcome he wants. Quite often, what happens is I'm brought in because there's a pain, because there's a challenge. There might be some conflict or a little bit of chaos going on, as much as people don't like to admit that.
Do you work in a specific area of business, retail versus manufacturing, tow truck operators? Is there a particular industry that you're keen on or that you find that they're open to this conversation?
I think the industry that I love, and it's rather broad, but it is the service-based industry. Because quite often the service-based industry relies on the people providing the service. If they don't have that circle of strength, that's going to ripple out and negatively affect their clients, their business, their personal life, which then, as I found out in the family business, starts to affect your health and you financially as well. The ripple effect is a huge impact-wise.
I find a disproportionate amount of entrepreneurs have ADD. If we were boiling this down to 1 or 2 points, what's one piece of advice you'd give to an entrepreneur in their journey toward clarity, maybe even empowerment?
I would use the Maya Angelou quote, do your best with what you have now. Sometimes that is a Band-Aid fix to calm things down, get things smoothed out. And I would say that progress over perfection and focus. It's about getting really clear on what is going to get you to the next steps. And I don't mean putting out fire step. I mean your goal for creating a streamlined workflow for more harmony in the business so you can work faster and better. We've been taught it's important to work hard. And working hard is okay as long as you're having fun and enjoying the process. Working hard like banging your head against the wall is not going to bring you any more progress or fun.
And bring it closer to seeing a doctor soon.
Yeah.
And one of the things when you're in a slog, you're going at something, you're not quite headbanging yet, right? Into that heavy rock music.
Yep.
Where do you find the why? How do you help the business owner find the purpose? You have to have a plan. You don't want to be running at hyperspeed all the time. You need a motivational piece. What do you tell them to look for?
That's funny. I can't give you a one-off answer because we are all different. One of my strengths is individualization, so I can put myself in their shoes. It's really important to understand your purpose. Sometimes, if a business owner doesn't have clarity, they may think their purpose is one thing, but it's actually another. And so it's getting down to what that real purpose is and getting everyone in the business to buy into that and creating a vision that ties in with that purpose. Vision is a dichotomy. You have people teaching, have a 10-year vision. Sometimes people who are in that chaos mode, they can't even see to the next week. So what's the vision that you have right now? And then how do we build on that? in incremental steps? How do we build on that so that as we're working together, they have a broader vision of maybe the next 6 months, then the year, 3 years, attainable, yet something that you strive for at the same time.
That's actually, yeah, I can see that. It depends. Not all situations are the same. The feelings could be the same, right? Absolutely. At the end of the day, what are the tells that you're going to advise people to look for that say, hey, I've hit a moment and I should seek outside help? Because that sometimes is the hardest thing for people to do, right? I talk with my spouse quite often. She says, we should go see somebody. And then my internal male voice goes, no, I think we're good. We'll sort it out. But that's not best advice. Am I being pragmatic or am I just putting my head in the sand? How do you help them get the head out of the sand? What should they look for to pull the head out of the sand?
Yeah, it's ultimately if someone had have said to my family and I at the beginning when my siblings worked there already when I was brought into the business. And if someone had said to us, why don't we all get together so that we make sure we're on the same page with the same vision so that we can optimize each of your strengths? I would have been so excited about that. But I didn't know what I didn't know, and my parents didn't know what they didn't know.
Is there a flag? Even if you're just frustrated, and I hear you. I don't know everything, but at a certain point, you're going, there's something missing here. And I just can't put my finger on it. So how do they trigger on that? How do they come to that concept? It might take a week or 2 or a month, hopefully not a whole year, because then there's a stress test involved in that, both medically and physically. Is there some other way for them?
In my experience, it works best when people are aware that they want to create win-win scenarios.
Yes.
It's not about me winning and you losing. It's about how can we set things up in the best way possible so that the employees win, the siblings win, and the clients win, the clients that you bring into the business, because that all ripples out and affects our economy, our healthcare, like I talked about before. So it's really, if you have owners or shareholders that ultimately they want the best for everyone involved, then you're going to be able to move forward. And if you don't have that, or if you have someone that thinks they know everything and can do everything, then it's simply not going to work. Being a solopreneur still requires a village. You can't do it all on your own.
You mentioned wanting to work with service industry professionals. Is geography play much of a role? I know we're all on Zoom here, so we can go anywhere, but do you tend to focus more on one geography than others? And if somebody does say, hey, I need some help, how do they reach you?
I would say the best way to reach me is through LinkedIn. And geographically, I typically work with clients in the US and Canada. When I went into the online business world in 2012, actually the end of 2011, I went in more as a virtual assistant because I was trained as a word processing manager back when they first introduced it. I just went back to something that I knew. I realized quite quickly my clients weren't respecting the experience that I brought to the table with all that I'd learned over the years. Then I got certified as an online business manager, and then I became a business coach. So it's been a progression.
If someone wants to reach out to you, Camilla, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best routes?
LinkedIn would be the best way to get a hold of me.
I want to say thank you to Camilla Bignell, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. So if you're finding that you're not having a complete win-win all the way around, yourself, your crew, and your clients, that is a flag. It is a big flag. And that's when you reach out to Camilla through LinkedIn.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motivate.uca. That is MOTIVE. The numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motivate.uca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Javan Strika from At Hive, Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host. Disclaimer: the NAC 4 Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by participants are their own and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. This podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is recommended that individuals seek guidance from their personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.